Hi, welcome to episode 25 of the podcast. Today, we're going to continue on the subject of friends and friendships in adulthood, and I'm going to talk about how to make friends as an adult, and I'm going to lean heavily on my experience in the past 2 years, having relocated to a new country and trying to build my community from scratch, and even my experience when I was younger in uni and making friends, coming from a background where I felt like I didn't really have people that I could call my friends like that in like real life, like in person. I had a lot of online friends, but I didn't really have people in my immediate vicinity that I could count as friends. Yesterday, we looked at my quadratic theory of friendships, and is like an expansion or based on Sternberg's triangular theory of love, romantic love. And my quadratic theory of friendships is that friendships are built on four main things: repeated exposure, vulnerability, shared experiences, values and interests, and commitment. And today I'm going to be talking about making friends. And I will be basing my tips on making friends on the four pillars of my quadratic theory of friendships. I actually haven't Googled this, so I don't know if anybody has anything like similar to what I have just said, because I didn't want to have like interference in my own thoughts when I'm sharing. So let's start with repeated exposure and shared experiences, values, and interests, because they're kind of connected. I talked about some examples on the previous episodes where it's like when you go to a gym or a church or somewhere where you see the same people or a particular person over and over again, you're more likely to connect with that person and become friends. And in the context of moving abroad, this is about finding communities where people do things that you are interested in or that you enjoy or that you would like to try out. You can join professional communities. You can join, if you like knitting, you can look for places where people are doing artsy stuff. It doesn't have to be necessarily knitting. It's not necessarily like one-to-one. If you're a fitness buff, you can join a hiking group, a walking group. Even if it's not something that you've thought of before, maybe because where you used to live, those things didn't really exist. I mean, like if you're in Nigeria and you can relate to the idea that like there are things that you find when you move abroad that would have never entered your mind as something that you could do. So even exploring new potential interests is a good way. So basically, just go to places where you find people who have interests that you have, shared values. So that would be like a church, or if you're of a different faith, a mosque, or wherever people of your faith congregate. And then professional meetups and communities. And the app Meetup is a great place to find those kinds of communities that meet, whether online or offline. I remember when I first moved, I joined this trivia game community on Meetup where every week or every other week we would have like an hour or 2 hours of pub quiz type things online, and I met one or two people there. So the first thing is play into that shared experiences, values, and interesting, and create repeated exposure by being present regularly. So if you don't spread yourself too thin and try to go to 100 meetups consistently, my approach and recommendation will be to spread yourself across multiple meetup group things. And I don't mean necessarily on the Meetup app, like anywhere else you find them. And then narrow down to like 3 or 4 that you really enjoy and consistently go to those ones. So if they meet monthly, go every month for everything. If it's weekly, go every week as much as you can. And meet people, actually talk to people. And the more you go, the more people see you, the more you see a particular person or 2 or 3 particular people, then the more likely you are to build that connection and make friends. Also, don't overthink it, right? Don't think that you need to, again, you don't need to talk to 100 people, you just need to talk to one person, right? And if you talk to that one person, that can blossom into other relationships because they can introduce you to people that they know, whether in that community or in a different community. So play that shared experiences and values and interests is the one of the easiest ways to find friends, because you already have something in common. You can join a parent group with your parents, you can join there's single groups, there are all kinds of groups for any kind of interest that you are interested in, I believe. And that is one way to go. So me being a person who works in tech, I went to a lot of tech meetups, product meetups, design meetups, UX meetups, all kinds of meetups. And the people that I've connected with, I didn't make any actual friends from those places, to be honest, but I know people who have. But I've just made some connections and built my network in the Netherlands from doing that. Now you may feel like, oh, what if I can't find something? What if everything is too far from me? You can then take on the challenge with the person who connects people. That's an amazing way to meet people, and it's also a way that I have personally met people, built my I don't want to say network because of how people feel about it, but like built the people that I have met, like increase my the size of my community from when I moved here till now, is by being the person who connects people, who organizes things. One thing that is very dear to me that I started when I moved, like a couple of months after I moved here, was a Bible breakfast, and it started with me and one other person, and then it became two. We became three people in total, and then now we're like six or seven. Everybody doesn't come every month. We do it once a month, and I made the closest friends that I have the closest friends that I have in the Netherlands, many of them come from that group. I remember in December of 2022, I cried so much one night. I was crying so much about how I missed my friends. I've never really felt this sense of being alone. Even in that time when I was younger, where I was like, I didn't really have friends. But in that time, I felt very, very alone. I knew that I had my people who were not with me in the Netherlands. We still talked almost every day. We called each other, we did video calls, we sent voice notes to each other, and all of those things. But there's just a sense of having people in your geographical location. And I cried so much that day. And I couldn't stop crying. And I was praying to God. I was like, God, I need friends. I need people. Like, I know that everybody's not for me, but I need my people in this country. And this is fast forward to like 6 months later. I had a hospital appointment. And for some reason, like I didn't want to just go alone, and my husband couldn't come with me for reasons. And then this was it. I can't ever forget it. It was a Thursday morning that I had that appointment, 9 a.m. in a faraway city from Amsterdam, where I lived. I had to. It was like an hour's journey by train, and then I called my friend literally at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, or 6 p.m. It was after work or just towards the end of work, that I needed her to come with me to this appointment. And she did. And it was just like it was for me, it was the shift in my mind of like, wow, I've actually found my people. This is me 6 months ago. I was whipping and wailing about not having friends. And now there's somebody who I call literally less than 24 hours notice, and she shows up and she spent the whole day with me because the appointment turned out to be longer than we had expected. And it was because I took that step. And that's what I was saying about vulnerability. Like, you need to be willing to be vulnerable, because she could have said no. She could have been like, why not guys like that? Right? But she didn't. And it was a risk I was taking with my feelings and my emotions. And you have to overcome that. And that is why that piece of being the person who does the connecting and pulling of people also goes in tangent, I mean, in tandem with the idea of vulnerability as part of the quadratic theory. You have to be willing to be vulnerable with yourself. You have to be willing to take the risk to step out, and knowing that allowing yourself to be vulnerable is also allowing yourself the possibility of being hurt on one side, but on the other side of that same coin is the possibility of allowing yourself to be loved. And what is a friendship if it's not two people deciding to love each other and show up for each other and care for each other? When it comes to building the friendships and trying to make new friends, maybe you're in a new city, a new country, or for some reason you feel like your old friends no longer want to be your friend, which is a thing that happens. And I have experienced where I had friends, and my sister and I were even talking about a couple of days ago how friends, some people just decide not to be a friend anymore. They basically ghost you. And some people actually tell you, like, I don't think we can remain friends. It's not you, it's me. You didn't do anything or whatever. Or maybe you did something and the relationship could not be repaired. But for whatever reason, you feel like you want to make friends, you need to make friends. As an adult, it can be very difficult because when you're younger, you or the situations for you to make friends are kind of created for you. You go to primary school, you go to secondary school, you people are in the same place, experiencing the same things, which is like the first, really one of the first things that enables friendships, that shared experience, like I've talked about. And you go to secondary school and even uni. Up after uni is where it tends to get a bit more difficult for people because you're not in this quote unquote forced environment. The environment has been forced to and forced you all to be together in that same space, experiencing the same thing. And then you find people in that space that your values and interests align, and then you become closer to those people. Those people become your core friendships, and then you may also have other people outside of that core that you talk to. They're your friends, but they're not your friends in the same way the people in your core are. And I know that you understand what I'm saying. But after uni, the size of those opportunities drastically reduce. If you go to start working after school, or if you go to start your own business, or you're job hunting, whatever the situation is, your circle of possibilities have kind of shrinked in terms of your of friends in your actual geographical location, which is what I want to focus on. And so you have to put in extra effort. You have to put in effort to widen that circle, to meet people. And that's where those other interests that you have outside of work come in, whether it's books, whether it's gaming, whether it's music, whether it's whatever it is, arts, creating, whatever. That is where you have to create those, you have to look for how to widen the circle and widen the possibilities for you to find friends. And it requires work, it requires effort, it requires time. I'm not an introvert, but I prefer to hang out with people in my house or in their house. I don't like to go outside to a place and go hang out with people. I like everybody to be in my house, or we should be in someone's house, right? But I had to make that effort to constantly go to things. I will show up everywhere for everything whenever I could. And it was from there that I started being able to meet people. Another thing that you can do is volunteer, and it's still part of that shared experiences and values and interest thing. You volunteer for causes that you care about and things that you care about, and that also widens your surface area of possible friendships as well. Um, yeah, so just really shared experiences, and even trauma bonding is a thing that people say a lot. I don't want is what I'm trying to describe now. It's not trauma bonding. It's just when you have experienced something with someone, like I talked about in the previous episode, something that is can be coded as negative, right? How you come out of that experience can impact a friendship, whether creating one or ending one. And so, if you experience a tough situation and someone holds your hand through that process, the person is there for you, that has the tendency to build on that friendship. And in terms of reaching out to people, you also have to be vulnerable enough to do that beyond going into large groups or even saying hi to one person in that large group and spending time with that person. You have to also be willing to do that with people one on one, even outside of the setting of those large groups. So if you have a friend of a friend of a friend, you should be willing to reach out to that person, say hi, I just moved to your city, whatever, and um I would like to connect. I actually did this when I first moved. I messaged people on LinkedIn who were in the UX space and just reach out to them like I just moved to the Netherlands and I don't know anybody in the UX field. I know like maybe one or two people and I would like to just connect. And a couple of people responded to me. I was able to meet some people and we still keep in touch. That is one way. You need to reach out to people in whatever way you can think of and find the thing that connects you with those people when you reach out to them. So it could be a mutual friend, it could be a shared interest, it could be the work that you do. Another place you can find friends is work. People always say your people at work are not your friends, which I understand where that sentiment comes from. But one of my best friends in the whole world, I met at my first job, and we've been friends for over 7 years. And it was like it just made sense for us to be friends. I don't know. We had a shared experience. We started working at the place at the same time. We were we were in a similar stage of life. He had just finished uni and I was in my last year of uni. So that there you can see like shared experience, shared interest. We're both working in UX and repeated exposure. We saw each other basically 5 days a week, right? And that built the perfect environment for a friendship to blossom. And then we had to then layer on the other two parts, vulnerability and commitment. We talked to each other, we shared about things going on in our lives, our hopes, our aspirations, and we were committed to being friends to each other. In reaching out to people, you can also try apps. I know I tried Bumble BFF and I did meet two people, and we are very good friends. We talk, we chat, we hang out. It's a very difficult and weird experience, to be honest. Like, I spoke to so many people and then people will not reply you, or you, Steph, you will not reply people. Like, there were weeks I didn't log into Bumble. But I did meet two people from Bumble BFF and it was a great experience. So I recommend trying things like that if you're open to it. To wrap it up, because this is getting longer than I intended, um, friendships in adulthood can be difficult because you're no longer forced into environments with as many people as you were in your younger years, so primary school, secondary school, uni. And also, as you grow older, you tend to have been hardened by the experiences of life and you don't want to be vulnerable and you are scared of getting hurt, which can limit your possibilities in making friends. And to combat that, you have to work past whatever past experiences you've had and be willing to be vulnerable and start with finding people that you have shared interests, values, and experiences with. Try to widen the surface area of places where and possibilities where you can make friends. You can also start something if you feel like in your community or where you live, you don't see any groups for new parents or newly married people or single people or whatever. I don't know why I'm using relationship, but whatever interest that is the core focus for you. Like me, for me, it was my faith, and I found people to which we could do Bible study monthly together, and that built into a community. I also host in my house because I love doing that. So find what you like doing and connect with people over that. And the other three things: repeated exposure, make the effort to constantly show up. You need to do that a lot, especially in the beginning. When you have banked in you have deposited enough, you can then like relax from time to time, but you need to show up a lot. You need to be vulnerable, you need to be willing to share yourself, and with discernment, right? Not like you're just gonna tell everybody everything that's happening in your life. With discernment, be vulnerable, and then you need to be committed. You need to keep reaching out, keep showing up, even if you feel like maybe your energy is not being reciprocated. And if you feel like it gets to a point where you know that, okay, I've tried and I can let this thing go, but you have to keep trying. And yeah, I hope this helps you in your journey to finding friends and building friendships. And in the last part of this series, tomorrow, I'll be talking about how to maintain adult friendships, because that's also another thing that is difficult. Priorities of life and demands of life can get in the way of that. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.